The next topic is studies of figurative language comprehension. Studies of figurative language has been focused primarily on metaphor, but has recently been extended to other forms of figurative expressions like idioms. Figurative language is a broader term that encompasses other forms such as idioms, puns, proverbs, metaphors. So, studies have been conducted to see that how these different forms affect the readers as well as the listeners' comprehension. Some research say that about 4 figurative expressions are produced per minute of any speech production. So the studies are looking at different interpretation caused by all these different types of figurative language forms. Metaphor is the primary form which plays a central role not only in everyday discourse but also in reflecting how people think in broad range of domains. So metaphorical interpretation actually expands one's understanding of different concepts which are not explicitly or literally explained. So now looking at metaphor, we will also look at different types of metaphor. As you can see that metaphor refers to understanding and experiencing one kind of thing in terms of another. Now, the everyday meaning of the term metaphor could be depicted in terms of describing something in terms of something else. For instance, by using of metaphor, life or party, or you can say life in this case describes as somewhat a festivity of occasion. When you say there's life in the room, when you look at different people talking and enjoying and laughing, and you would say there's a life in the room, that means you are referring to a state of festivity. So it's a figure of speech in which word or phrase is applied to an object or action to which it is not literally applicable. Now, structure metaphor is described as type of metaphor which is characterized as metaphors where words are structured metaphorically in terms of other words, such as time is money or argument is war. So these are the expressions where words are structured metaphorically in terms of other words. Orientational metaphor deals with spatial relation, in, out, front, back, up, down. So it gives spatial orientation of an object. Now, considering the orientational metaphor or happy possibly being regarded in the direction of being happy or upbeat, and sad is a word or expression which reflects downwards direction. It's one example where you can see that I'm feeling down or my spirits rose. This conceptual system of spatial orientation is basically attributed to objects through physical and cultural experiences. Then you have ontological metaphor, which is portrayed as providing concepts in the shape of objects and substances. Shape of objects and substances. For example, in the example, I have got a mountain of work to do. Now you visualize the amount of work as having a concept of mountain in our mind, and this is what mountain over here is ontological metaphor. Another type of figurative language is idioms and idiomatic relations or expressions. Now when we look at it, we see that by idiom, it is also in everyday sense of a term can be used to reflect aspects of language or group of words where the meaning of the combination of specific words alter the meaning of the phrase or combination. So words and combination of specific words, they alter the meaning of the phrase or combination. So you have under idioms, pure idioms, semi-idioms, ideational idioms, interpersonal idioms, and relational idioms. Pure idioms are conventionalized and non-literal expressions in a sense of fixity of constituents. Fixity, fixed, of constituents and semantic opacity. It can be exemplified as something like spick and span, the coast is clear, etc. Semi-idioms are basically next in line, and they are often built on co-occurring words. Co-occurring words, which will stay partially true to their literal meaning, while the other constituent will lose their literal meaning when in co-occurrence with its literal partner. So partially literal and the other loses its literal meaning in the process of co-occurrence. Relational idioms. They refer to the coherence in a given text. The idioms show relational aspect with discourse, such as integrating, comparing, contrasting, and sequencing words. For example, relational idioms such as on the contrary, no wonder, on the other hand, and last but not the least, my aid. These examples contribute in adding coherence to the discourse. So this idiom refers to coherence. Hence, figurative language is no longer perceived as merely an ornament added to everyday, straightforward literal language, but is instead viewed as powerful communicative and conceptual tool.